Freddy vs. Jason, the novelization by Stephen Hand. Chapter 2. Rain poured down from the early evening sky. It was dark and the water splashed on the tarmac of the road, where it formed puddles that reflected the streetlights and the beams from occasional passing cars. The road was lined with houses in the colonial style. The lawns were long and well kept. The vehicles parked out front were all less than 3 years old, and there was no gum on the sidewalk. Welcome to suburban Money Central. Thunderstorms were rare over the town of Springwood. Many of the older residents associated lightning storms with bad news, and tonight they were right. When the blinding electricity flashed once more across the sky, it revealed the hulking, menacing figure of Jason Voorhees. Where was he? He had expected his mother to return him to Crystal Lake. That's what he always does. Jason goes home. But this was definitely not Crystal Lake. This was somewhere else. A town with cars, people, houses. He needed to find... The lightning flashed once more. He was standing by a signpost on the corner of the street. He looked up. Thunder boomed overhead. The sign read, Elm Street. When the rumbling subsided, Jason heard a sound he knew very well. It was being carried to him on the wind of the storm. Jason cocked his head and heard the sound of voices. Teenagers' voices. Okay, marry, fuck, or kill. Your choices are the Three Stooges. Gib had asked the party game question, but the Three Stooges was just as good a way of describing Gib and her two friends, Kia and Lori. The three of them had been close since the beginning of elementary school. They'd been through a lot over the years and had shared some good times. But now that they were in their final term of high school, it was clear to Lori at least that the three of them were growing further and further apart. As each girl saw more of what life had to offer a young adult, they were making separate decisions that saw each of them moving off in different directions. A more positive viewpoint might be that the three of them formed a triangular yin and yang, and that it was their differences that had bound them together for so long. And certainly right now the strength of their mutual friendship was still more than enough to hold them together. But who could say whether they'd still be so close a few years down the road? That was a question for the future. Now, however, the girls were simply content having fun round at Lori's place. The three of them sat by the coffee table in the newly decorated living room. Just in case the other two had forgotten who the Three Stooges were, Gib tried to make the question more clear. Larry, Moe, or Curly? Kia frowned, wrinkling her nose. Which one had the super bad toupee hair? Moe, replied Lori. I'd kill him. If there was one thing Kia had no time for, it was fashion crime. There was no reason to not look good, even on a budget. It just took a little bit of time and a little bit of pride, and Kia herself looked pretty much of her time and place. The copper-red streaks through her black hair perfectly complementing her facial tones. Likewise, her clothes were totally streaked, yet with a clear ethnic slant, giving her a look that was contemporary yet somehow timeless. You got the impression that there was far more to Kia than met the eye. With Gib, on the other hand, what you saw is what you got. And what you got was an excitable kid in a red baseball cap holding a beer. Everything about Gib was a denim statement and don't fuck with me. But she loved Kia's answer. Okay, keep 'em coming, girl. Which was harder than Gib thought. But she loved Kia's answer. Hey, Kia, keep 'em coming, girl. Which was harder than Gib thought. It's easy deciding which of the Three Stooges you'd want to kill. That is, if you couldn't kill all of them. But come on, marry or fuck? Kia thought long and hard before managing a difficult sigh. I guess I'd fuck the bald guy. Curly, added Lori. Kia was still confused by the whole Stooges concept. I thought the guy with the long hair was Curly. No, that was Larry, explained Lori. Kia rolled her eyes. Okay, whatever. I'd fuck the bald guy. I'd marry Larry. Jesus. She stood up suddenly, pissed. Is this what we're doing all night? 'Cause this is super lame. I mean, your dad's gone the whole weekend. Lori didn't need reminding. Kia and Gib were her best friends, but Lori couldn't keep herself from feeling uncomfortable. She didn't like it when her dad went away, and she never knew where he went to. She thought he worked local. She frowned momentarily, hoping her friends didn't notice. If anyone had more reason to feel out of the friendship right now, it was Lori. 4 years ago, well, something had happened. Something bad, and it hadn't been a long time before Lori had been able to find the fun again. Kia and Gib had helped her through her problems, but Lori still sensed that recent events had put her friendship with the two of them under a lot of strain. And the strain was still there, bubbling beneath the surface. Lori was able to deal with this. She had to. She had been through so much since moving to Elm Street that she had to grow up faster than Gib and Kia. She'd matured, become more independent. She'd developed a fierce inner strength because if life had taught Lori anything, it was that when push comes to shove, we all have to deal with the tough things in life on our own. Lori couldn't rely on her friends. She couldn't rely on her father, and she couldn't rely on... Don't even think his name, she thought. Lori was just 17, and at first glance seemed like any other attractive young woman. But the green eyes framed by her flowing blonde hair betrayed a wisdom beyond her years, and every gentle line on her beautiful face showed the great strength of her character. Whatever it was that had happened to Lori, it had only made her stronger. Gib took the opportunity of Kia's tantrum to get up and walk to the living room window. She now had a cigarette in her hand, along with her beer. Lori was not impressed. Sure, Gib was going to smoke by an open window. The room wouldn't stink so much, but smoking was such a bad scene. Gib, I thought you were going to quit. Lori didn't mean to complain, but she felt she had to say something. Gib laughed and raised her beer. I only smoke when I drink now. Kia saw the flaw in the plan. But you're always drinking. Yeah, smiled Gib. I gotta work on that next. Gib threw open the window and lit up. Outside, the storm was in full throttle. Some of the rain started to blow in through the window, but somehow that only made the cigarette more satisfying. Gib's tiny puff of nicotine fire was defying the elements. All right, she said. I got another one. Fred, Shaggy, or Scooby? Despite herself, Kia had to laugh. Lori just groaned. Fuck Scooby-Doo? Gib could have at least included Scrappy-Doo, for someone to kill. He had found the voices, soaked by the pouring rain, dazzled by the lightning, and buffeted by the wind. Jason Voorhees had homed in on the giggling female voices. Suddenly the voices became louder, and he saw it, the house across the road. A window had just been opened, on the ground floor. A girl was sitting there. She was holding a cigarette. Smoking is bad for your health. She would be the first to die. There was no way that Kia was going to waste a single second of her time on choosing a cartoon character to marry. Screw the dumb game. Besides, she had more urgent matters on her mind. She opened up her compact and started to adjust her makeup. Do you guys think I should get a nose job? Lori groaned. Which magazines had Kia been looking at this time? Gib moaned, but for quite a different reason. Why? She asked, half serious, half clowning. So you can steal even more of the guys I'm interested in? Kia was about to answer, but was drowned out by a sudden clap of thunder. The heart of the storm was almost overhead now. Gib blew more smoke out through the open window. Lori was becoming annoyed. It was dumb to open a window during a storm. If the lights in the living room dipped, flickered, then were good again. Maybe I should get some candles, suggested Lori. If she expected some kind of support for this common sense course of action, well, she knew her friends better. "What we need," countered Gib, finishing the last drop of her drink, "is more beer." The way Gib saw it, the lights were good. They dimmed, that's all. Not bad. Lori could fix it while Gib was gone getting the brewskis. "You guys want anything?" she asked. "I'm gonna make a run." She flicked her cigarette butt out the window, where it struck Jason Voorhees square in the middle of his hockey mask, then bounced dully off to the ground. Tiny red sparks floated down around Jason's head as he tightened his grip on the machete. Jason was standing right outside the house now. He looked at the door. Wooden panels painted yellow. 2 slender columns stood, one each side of the door, supporting the roof of the portico where Jason could see the number of the house. 4 numbers, decorative, screwed on tight. 1, 4, 2, 8. Lori lived at 1428 Elm Street, the house where Marge Thompson had died, the house where Nancy Thompson had fought Freddy Krueger and survived, the house of 1,000 nightmares, the house at the heart of a mystery the people of Springwood had spent over 40 years trying to forget. Lori lived at 1428 Elm Street, and after tonight, her life would never be the same again. Gib picked up her car keys and headed out of the living room into the hallway. "Should you be driving?" Lori called after her. "Please, I'm totally under the limit." Gib opened the front door, only to see someone standing there. "Surprise!" It was Trey, and he had that guy Blake with him. They were both cowering under the portico from the rain. Trey lifted his hand. He was holding a 12-pack of beer. Talk about timing. "Trey!" Gib beamed. "You answered my prayers." She took the beer from her boyfriend's hand and went to him, but he pushed her away with a look of disgust on his face. "Babe," he complained, "what have I told you about kissing me after you've smoked? Huh?" "Lighten up. They're menthols." Gib liked Trey. She liked him a lot, but that didn't stop Trey being totally pointless when he started with the hygiene thing. He would go way, way beyond rational on this. Trey leaned forward and grinned slyly. "I brought Blake." He nodded back over his shoulder in the direction of his friend. "So, where's Linda?" Gib hushed him. "It's Lori, and this is her house, so don't be a total cocksmith." "Whatever." Trey pushed past Gib and strode into the house where he guessed all the action was. Blake strutted in behind him and gave Gib his best shot at a smile while sipping from a silver hip flask he kept in his jacket. If Gib didn't know better, she'd say Blake was a total poser, which is pretty much how Lori felt. As soon as the 2 slicksters entered her living room, she smiled, grabbed hold of Kia, and whispered, "Did you know they were coming over?" Kia didn't care who heard her reply. "Hey, we knew you were just going to sit your ass here alone all night. You need to meet a guy. And," she winked, "Blake's cute." "He's not my type." Blake and Trey were like 2 hyperactive clothes racks in need of a fire. "Who is?" snapped Kia. "No one's ever going to live up to the fuzzy memory of your first love, okay? You were fucking 14, Lori. Get over it. It's called puppy love." Kia was being tough, but Lori knew her friend meant well. "Look, we were young," Lori admitted, "but what Will and I had was real." "Really? Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Mr. Real just drop-kick your ass without so much as a goodbye handshake?" Lori said nothing, leaving Kia to forge on with the sermon. "He ever call or write you after he moved? Maybe send you an email?" Again, no reply. Kia was right, but Lori wasn't prepared to admit it. She couldn't reconcile her knowledge, her memory of Will with the way things had ended. Will had just vanished out of her life, even though that wasn't the kind of thing Will would ever do. And he'd taken off just when Lori needed him most. Just when Lori's mom... Kia hadn't known Will like Lori had, but At the end of the day, Will wasn't around, and Kia was right about that. "You see my point, girl?" said Kia. "It's time to leave the convent, Lori. You need to meet a guy." At which point she nodded over to Blake. Lori followed suit, just in time to see Blake reach down into his pants and adjust his package. Oh, great. The electric lamps continued to cut in and out all evening, so Lori had finally gone and fetched some candles from the utility room. She wasn't sure they were really necessary, but it kept her busy, and out of Blake's way. Trey and Gib had put on some music and were all over each other on one of the sofas in the living room. Kia was waiting for Lori to start noticing Blake, but Lori was preoccupied with putting the candles down. She was just putting another candle in place when Blake called over to her. "I like the flow of your place. Got good feng shui, you know? You know feng shui? You should see her bedroom. Great flow in there." Kia chimed a bit too eagerly. "Lori, why don't you go upstairs and let Blake see your feng shui?" Lori shot Kia the dirtiest look, when suddenly there was a deafening crack of thunder. And all the lights finally gave up the ghost. Kia tutted quietly to herself. Lori was right again. She struck a match and started to light the candles. She didn't think the power would come back any time soon. Lori put one of the lit candles near the love-hungry couple, but Trey abruptly stood up. He looked knowingly at Gib and said, "Come on, I got a kink in my neck. You can give me a massage." Gib smirked back. "I think I need a couple more drinks before there's going to be any massaging." Trey didn't see the joke. He was nursing a hard-on that could knock a hole in a fence, and in true hot-blooded style was growing mightily impatient. "Babe, don't make me ask you twice, okay?" Then he got up and headed off upstairs, expecting Gib to fall in close behind. Lori didn't get it. "What do you see in him, Gib?" she asked. "You mean besides a really cute ass?" smiled Gib. Then she picked up a couple of beers, took a lit candle from Lori's hand, and went off upstairs after her guy. Blake watched Lori intently. He hoped she might be inspired by Gib's example. He was nursing a hard-on as well. Lori watched Gib drift out of the room and shook her head. It was going to be a long night. Chapter 3. By the time Gib got to the bedroom, Trey had already taken off his clothes and folded them all neatly on a chair. Everything was tidy and precise. It was Dr. Campbell's bedroom, Lori's dad's room. The room had a good-sized double bed, but the decor clearly lacked a woman's touch. Gib put the candle down on a nightstand by the side of the bed, then started to pull back the sheets. "Hey!" barked Trey. "What are you doing? Those sheets are probably filthy. You just pull back the comforter. We'll just lay on top, okay?" "That damned hygiene thing again." Gib was not impressed. "God, you're a freak." The atmosphere was just as awkward downstairs. Only the people in the living room weren't going to have all the hassle made worthwhile by a long, satisfying screw. Instead, the three of them just sat there in silence. Blake still felt he could make the feng shui angle work for him. I mean, come on. It made him sound so deep, right? "So, Lori," he said, "am I going to get the grand tour?" "Why don't you start in the kitchen," she replied, bored, "and get us a beer while you're in there, okay?" Blake didn't smell the condescension. He was only too glad to be of service. The way he saw it, he was slowly breaking Lady Lori's ice. He shot Lori what he thought was a sexy nod, then got up to go play fetch. "He's a total folio, Kia. Get him out of here." "Oh, come on. Just give him a chance." "I don't like him." "You don't like anybody. I mean, you've barely gone out since—" Lori cut her off. "Since what? My mom died? Look, my dad needs me, okay? I can't just go out all the time with guys, and if I did, it wouldn't be with someone like Blake. Although they were talking about him, Blake's ears were not burning. He'd drunk too much booze from his hip flask to be at all sensitive to anything. He didn't even notice that the back door was wide open, nor did he spot the wet puddle on the floor just inside the doorway. He just stumbled into the kitchen with his candle. Blake threw open the fridge door and grabbed some beers. The refrigerator door was tall, the height of a man. He closed it, and that was when a gust of howling wind blew his candle out. Oh man! Blake felt the draft on his hand, and followed it to the open door. It was dark. Slowly he walked across the kitchen floor until he reached the back door, and closed it. When he got back into the living room, there was a pause between tracks on the CD, and he could hear the distant sighs and moans of Trey and Gib screwing from upstairs. Lucky bastard. Trey had told him Gib always liked to be on top. Lucky bastard. He put the beers on the table. Your back door was open, he told Lori flatly. I closed it. He didn't notice the curious look Kia and Lori gave each other. He was too busy thinking about the action that was going on upstairs. Trey was done. He and Gib had finished their high beats per minute screw and were lying side by side, indulging in what some textbooks call the intimacy stage. Gib leaned over to cuddle him. Her smile was incredibly sexy, the kind of smile that could arouse almost any man. But Trey had finished. He'd shot his load, and it was over. Babe, you know I don't like to be touched after, okay? There he goes again with that freak thing. Gib angrily sat up and got out of bed. She really should have been used to this by now, but she wasn't. He still pissed her off. Was he incapable of sharing? It was as if making love was some kind of function for him, like taking a leak. Didn't it mean anything at all? Gib grabbed the comforter, wrapped it around herself, and headed for the bedroom door, shaking her head. Fine, I'm taking a shower. Good, Trey mumbled. Your hair smells like menthols. You bastard, Trey, she thought. Gib took the candle and walked along to the bathroom, leaving the self-satisfied asshole to stretch out on the bed in the darkness. Trey heard the shower come on. What do you know? Left her beer behind. He rolled over onto his stomach and stretched a hand out to reach for the beer. It was pretty dark, but he could just see the lightning flashed. What the? Crystal sharp in the white flash, Jason Voorhees was standing next to the bed, towering over the naked, sprawling body of Hygiene Boy. No! Please, no! Trey gasped as he saw Jason raise the machete, but he had no time to speak or cry out before the blade came down and drilled right through his body and through the bottom of the mattress of Lori's father's bed. Blood and springs burst through the bottom of the bed, and Trey's body spasmed and writhed as Jason twisted the machete in Trey's guts before finally withdrawing the awful smeared weapon. Trey? Gib was calling from the shower. She thought she had heard something. Trey wasn't leaving, was he? Jason paused. He looked down at the gutted youth with detached fascination. The voice from the other room could wait until... What was that? Trey's finger twitched. It was the twitch of a death nerve, and it triggered a further angry onslaught from the maniacal juggernaut. Jason would not permit anything to live, anything to breathe, or anything to move. Voorhees put the machete aside, then took hold of both ends of the bed frame in his powerful hands. He then folded the bed in half, collapsing the metal and wooden frame on Trey's body, crushing him, silencing him forever. The joints in Trey's body popped and snapped as his bones were compressed into the bloody flesh of the boy's remains. Jason had squashed this living being, with all his life ahead of him, into meat. He had crushed his victim into mangled flesh. He had broken him. Trey's fingers stopped moving. He was the first victim of Jason on Elm Street. Trey, what the hell are you doing? Gib had turned off the water and was listening intently. She could sense that Trey was up to something. Dripping wet and increasingly annoyed, Gib stepped out of the shower and wrapped a soft white towel around her body. What was the idiot playing at? She left the candle behind her and went into the bedroom. Trey hadn't found another candle. It was still dark in there. Gib slipped on a pull of something wet, her bare feet completely losing their grip, and in a moment she was flat on her ass. What the fuck? And then the power returned. Gib was sitting in a pool of blood. Not just blood. It was thick. It was sticky. There were other fluids mixed in there. Fluid and bits of... She looked up towards the bed, where Trey's smashed face and pulverized remains glistened among the broken bedstead, like some kind of fucked up slaughterhouse sandwich. Wrapped only in her blood-soaked towel, Gib came tearing down the stairs and bolted straight out of 1428 Elm Street, screaming loud enough to wake the dead. She didn't care about the storm. She didn't care about the rain. She didn't care that she was barefoot and naked, save for the bloody white towel. And Kia, Lori, and Blake soon followed her, screaming. They had gone upstairs to see what had happened. They had gone up into Dr. Campbell's bedroom and seen the body. The four of them ran in blind terror, desperate to escape whoever or whatever it was that had violated and murdered their friend. It was Kia who first caught sight of the patrol car, but even her brain was on hold when she ran straight out in front of it and waved her arms. Deputy Stubbs immediately hit the lights and sounded one wail of his siren before braking to a halt alongside the devastated foursome. He didn't like the look of Gib. Nude, towel, bloodstains. He didn't like the look of her one bit. "You kids need some assistance?" he asked guardedly. Gib held up her bloody hands and screamed, "What the fuck do you think?" Okay, Slashaholics, this has been chapters 2 and 3 of Freddy vs. Jason, the novelization by Stephen Hand. Hope you're all enjoying this book so far. There wasn't a whole lot of new stuff here with these 2 chapters. It's a lot of the same old from the movie, but I think it's written in a very exciting way. I really do enjoy Stephen Hand's writing style. I enjoyed his original Jason book as well, Carnival of Maniacs. You really got to check that one out. It's here on the channel. I did enjoy how instead of having Jason apparently walking all the way from Crystal Lake all the way to Elm Street, instead Freddy kind of just sent him back to Earth and he's at Springwood, like he's in Springwood around Elm Street. I really like that. I like the whole way it was written, how visual it was, the lightning flashes, and he's standing next to the Elm Street sign. Here's the kids laughing, heads over. You know, we got our scene from the movie here, introducing our characters. Slight differences, but not a whole lot. I've always felt sorry for the guy that's trying to hook up with Lori. But Trey, oh my God, fuck that guy. He got what he had coming as far as shitty characters go. But yeah, I really enjoyed the writing style of Stephen Hand. You know, how when the cigarette hits Jason, he's like right there by the letters of the house, the 1428. And I love the phrase that Trey was the first victim of Jason on Elm Street. You know what? Fuck it. It's no longer Freddy vs. Jason. They should have just named it Jason on Elm Street. Better name for the movie. I hope you guys are enjoying this book so far. There wasn't a whole lot to discuss in tonight's chapters. Nothing a lot more than what we already seen in the movie. Not a whole lot of changes going on there. A little bit of Jason's inner thoughts going on. While the reason why, after stabbing Trey to death, the reason why he still folded him up is because he saw Trey's pinky twitching, and he's like, "Nope, you got to be dead all the way." So I thought that was pretty cool. I love the scene of the teenagers running downstairs, running outside to the police car in the hall. What the fuck do you think? I love that part. Hope I didn't say that too loud for you guys. And I always wondered in the movie, like, why did all of them run out, you know? And at least the book explains that after Gib ran down, the other three ran upstairs and saw what happened, and they ran out with her. So there's that. We're about to be into another part of the movie that I really like, and that's when Laurie figures out that the town cops are hiding something. And I always enjoyed that scene, and Freddy's first scene with Laurie at the police station. I'm curious to see how Stephen Hand wrote those scenes. And I'll be back very soon with more of Freddy vs. Jason, the novelization. And, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Hope you are too. Until then, this has been your friendly neighborhood 80s slasher librarian saying, thanks for listening, and pleasant dreams!
Hi, this is Jeffrey Reddick, creator of Final Destination.
Greetings, Slashaholics. This is David Bergantino, author of the Freddy Krueger's Tales of Terror books, the Bard's Blood horror Shakespeare books.
Hey guys, this is Jason Brooks, Jason Voorhees from Friday the 13th Vengeance.
Hey, this is Slasher Pepper.
Hey everybody, it's CJ Graham, Jason, Friday the 13th Part 6.
This is William Patterson, known to Friday the 13th fans as Eric Morris.
Hi, this is Deborah Voorhees from Friday the 13th Part 5.
Hey folks, this is Adam Marcus, director of Jason Goes to Hell and Secret Santa.
Hello kiddies, this is John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper.
Hi, this is Kane Hodder, better known as Jason from Friday the 13th, Victor Crowley from Hatchet.
And you are listening.
You're listening.
And you're listening.
And you're listening.
I just want to make sure you guys know you're listening.
You are listening.
And you are listening.
And you are lucky enough to be listening.
Okay, boils and ghouls, you are listening.
You are listening
to the 80s Slasher Librarian.
To the 80s Slasher Librarian.
To the 80s Slasher Librarian.
The 80s Slasher Librarian.
To the 80s Slasher Librarian.
To 80s Slasher Librarian.
To 80s Slasher Librarian.
To the 80s Slasher Librarian.
To the 80s Slasher Librarian.
to the 80s Slasher Librarian. Keep listening, or I'll kill you.